What is going on, y'all? It's KMBest here. I think this deck is the best deck in Marvel Snap right now, which is crazy because so much has changed from patch to patch recently with the most recent imbalance patch aimed at the tech cards, but this deck has been here the whole time. It is honestly astonishing to me the degree to which this deck has eclipsed other decks in the same space for me. I just really can't figure out what it is that this deck does so well that other decks are just unable to match, but I will try to distill it down to a few basic principles. The first basic principle is that with the nerf to Juggernaut, it's become much less of a ubiquitous card and much more of a card that requires certain setup in order to be good, and that certain setup requires two energy cards that go in other locations that are meaningfully large, and this deck is probably the best deck at making that happen. So as long as Juggernaut is still relevant, this might have a place as the best Juggernaut deck. Additionally, this deck is doing what I would consider a service to the metagame by playing Mobius and Stardust, but it's not just doing that in order to police the metagame and prevent things from getting ridiculous. It's also that those cards are generally decently statted. I mean, a lot of things are 3-5, but 3-4 isn't nearly so bad as 3-3 was, and 4-7 is pretty solid when you consider what this deck is able to do to back it up. You also have the ability to get massive location variance in your favor, and I think that's a big part of this deck's strengths. Between those two cards, there are a lot of locations that are really good for you and really bad for your opponent. Anything that gets the game going a little bit crazy, you usually have an answer to, and I think that's actually quite notable. When you think of locations that really define games, a lot of them are answered by either Mobius or Stardust. Elysium for Mobius, an absolute game definer. Bar Sinister, Sinister London for Stardust. Games are defined by these locations, and you have the ability to make them one-sided with these cards. And I think that is really important to why this deck makes sense. It makes sense for a lot of the same reasons that decks that could afford to run Legion used to run Legion. When you are able to asymmetrically impact the RNG of the game, and a big part of Snap's RNG is the locations, the better you are going to be able to express your skill throughout it. Which is why I don't think it's a surprise that this deck has been largely limited to people like near the top of Infinite. This is a deck that I think scales with your ability to dynamically adjust to situations, and those cards give you that ability. Finally, I want to talk about Thing First Steps, who is really just kind of your one-size-fits-all problem solver. He gives you a puncher's chance, no pun intended, in a lot of spots where very few other decks of this type would have a puncher's chance. Between him and Juggernaut, you're just kind of always in games in a way that I think is very valuable to this deck. Your opponent always has a very incredibly large range of things to consider, and I think another card that really adds to this is Ghost Spider, who is just a card that is excellent for repositioning. Let's say you're ahead in a lane. You want to play Juggernaut there, you can then Ghost Spider it out for 8 power somewhere else while still getting the effect of that Juggernaut at the location. Bonus points if you were 2 points or 2 slots off of filling up a Thing First Steps location. She also moves Thing First Steps, which is a great thing to do. You get to reposition your biggest and most impactful guy, usually fairly reasonably, on the final turn of the game. And she's a 1/3. You get all this at very little cost. All in all, to me, this has been my best deck, full stop. I have done most of my climbing when I've done it on this deck. When I feel like I need to go back to playing a good deck after experimenting with something mediocre, this is the deck I go back to. It is a classic, consistent, interactive, and very intricate mid-range deck that I think is underplayed and under-enjoyed. Some of the best experiences I've had playing Marvel Snap are with this list. You can also check out my interview that I did with Lowell when he hit rank 1 with a list very similar to this, and of course, shout out to Safety Blade, who has been championing this style of Invisible When First Steps decks, even back when everyone was playing Prodigy. I talked a little bit about Ghost Spider already, and largely this is one of the cards that I've been really feeling is a little underplayed right now. There's just a lot of cube equity to be gained by this card existing. When we talk about what high-level Marvel Snap is, a lot of it is understanding what your opponent is capable of doing and what they are reasonably going to do. And this card increases your range in ways that are almost impossible to even talk about. You go from hotly contesting the location the thing first steps is on to hotly contesting a totally different location. You take your Juggernaut, you play it, you get the Juggernaut effect, then move it somewhere else so you're not wasting points, and you get all of that at a very good rate of 1-3. This card just does work. In addition, in some ways, you are very, very powerful on certain locations, thanks to Mobius and Stardust. But there's a specific type of game-changing location that you're not very powerful on, and that's the sort of Altar of Death type, and she can be quite good there as well. Hydra Bob is a 1-4. You are generally interested in that. I think a lot of the ability that this deck has to be a deck that matches points with other decks comes from the 1-drops. And I think, in a way, the Killmonger nerf was a pretty significant buff to this deck because it just meant that there were fewer decks in its same space of being a mid-rangey interactive deck that were really dumping on it. In fact, when Killmonger comes back and gets access to Danger, I wouldn't be surprised if a blow up all your opponent's stuff type deck does end up taking precedence over a deck like this as the mid-range deck du jour. It's definitely something to be aware of. It's something I'm certainly concerned about. But until such time, and again, I'm not Nostradamus, I can't predict the future, this is still where I want to be at. These are just great cards. You get a lot of value out of them, and in a deck that is so defined by you win one lane with a Juggernaut, you win another lane with some points, you need to have extremely efficient points when you get them. Everything I said about Hydra Bob is true about Black Cat, except sometimes Black Cat really messes you up by showing up early and preventing you from doing something you would otherwise prefer to do. You are discarding her. It's rare, but you will do it sometimes. And I think it is important to know when you need to prioritize other things. Like, okay, is this a thing for steps game? Because if so, let's say I have, a Surge, an Invisible Wind first steps, a Stardust, and a thing first steps in my hand, and I draw this, it's turn 2. Figuring out what to prioritize in that situation is going to be pretty difficult. If you go for the Surge, you got to keep in mind, like, okay, I've got a lot of actual cards in my hand that I'm definitely going to want to play. But if I don't go for the Surge, then when am I going to be able to actually get any value out of it? In a lot of those situations, when I have the curve in hand already, I will end up playing this because I have the curve in hand and because that makes the Surge a little less valuable. But I don't know that that's right. There's a lot of kind of contextual things you have to think about. Obviously, the best possible time to get a Black Cat is off of a Surge. You are going to have a 0-6 that is awesome. That high roll is berserk, and it is extremely, extremely powerful. I like Thena, but I think sometimes she can force you into doing things that aren't necessarily correct. So I think a lot of people play her and just like auto level up the Thena. And in some ways, that can be a fine thing to do, but a lot of the time, you don't need her to be the carry. It can just be important that you have access to her. And I think that's a relevant point here where it's like, all right, so a lot of the time, she's just a late game 2-6 or whatever. You play her alongside a Juggernaut, things like that. She's much more susceptible to being like a 2-9 because you like play her and an Invisible Woman first steps on turn 5, and then on turn 6, you go like Juggernaut Havoc. That kind of happens a lot too. But you don't need to be like, I played Thena on 2, that means I have to play out of curve. You got to plan that stuff out. Sometimes it can be really good to do that. And in fact, one of the times when it's really awesome to get like a 0-cost 1-drop is when you want to do something like, let's say on turn 3, you want to play Invisible Wind first steps and a 0-cost 1-drop, get Athena proc. That's super dope. On turn 5, you want to play Thing first steps and a 0-cost 1-drop, that's super dope. Like, that kind of stuff comes up a lot, and I think it is nice to get Thena where you can, but one of the ways you can go wrong with this deck is over-indexing for Thena, thus causing you to under-index for Thing First Steps. Havoc is mostly just Thena with one more point of power a lot of the time, and of course, without the requirement. You might think that there's a lot of obvious, 1+1s that you can get down, but I do think that, like, there are certain scenarios where you're just gonna have to take a gamble and say, I am going to Havoc on turn 5 alongside maybe Athena, and then depending on what I draw, I will maybe be able to play the 2 cards to trigger the Athena. That's rare because, like, your baseline assumption is I want to save 2 cards for Thena on turn 6, and therefore I don't want to play Havoc very early. But again, sometimes you just have to take that risk. Think about what you have left in the deck. Think about if you have any discounts, what you're looking at in your hand. Are you going to be able to do this? What are your percentage chances? And is it required for you to win? And I think Havoc is a card that largely presents as a fairly reasonably large body. You're not really ever going to be playing him before turn 5, barring very special circumstances. And you don't really want to be copying him all that much because copies don't exactly scale linearly. You only have 6 energy for him to eat over the course of the entire game anyway. So it's not like getting, a million Invisible Womans will result in him getting infinitely big. He's going to get 6 procs. This is still a fairly powerful card, though, and it is a very nice pairing to shore up a lane that you're already pretty sure you're going to win. One of the classic ways this deck goes is turn 5 Thing First Steps, turn 6 Juggernaut Havoc. Havoc goes into the Thing First Steps lane. Juggernaut wins the other lane. You're probably winning the Thing First Steps lane with the points that these cards represent. You activate your Invisible Woman. You get your 10 additional points. Thing First Steps blows something up. That's a lot of what this deck does. Surge is weird in that she's a very good card when she hits things that matter, and then sometimes what she does is hit something that absolutely does not matter and does not help you in a meaningful way, and then you have played a 2-1. Usually the card I'm talking about there is Juggernaut. Like, when she hits Juggernaut, you're like, all right, that didn't help me in the slightest. But if you're able to start her rolling, she is often worth prioritizing, and the good thing about Surge is because this deck has a relatively low curve, what she does is make it easy to get her proc by making things cheaper, so you're often able to play that and something else, right? There's not a lot in this deck that you will not be able to pair with another card in this deck if one of them has a Surge proc. Pretty straightforward way of making this happen. She's a solid card, although sometimes I do end up prioritizing on turn 2 Kate Bishop over her. I don't know if this is actually correct. It might just be risk-averse play rather than strictly correct play. Speaking of Kate Bishop, definitely a flex slot. If you want to know what defines my build of this deck compared to Lowell's build or Safety Blade's build, there are a couple cards that we all sort of have soft spots for. Kate Bishop is the card that I have a soft spot for, and Ghost Spider is the card that I have a soft spot for. Safety Blade will more often be playing, say, Copycat and Spider Ham, for example, in those spots. Lowell prefers like a Mercury. There's like a fairly decent dialogue going on about like, what should these cards actually be? I'm a big fan of Kate Bishop because, well, I really wanted to play Merlin, but this is a terrible Merlin deck, right? My baseline thought process was I really hate passing turn 2. I hate it so much. And I really hate leaving energy unspent because I think this deck can really benefit from just having additional small numbers of points or small advantages to gain. And additionally, having extra bodies to make sure Thing First Steps is actually doing his thing has also proven to be fairly helpful to me. But baseline, I was just looking for a card that was good that I could play on 2, because I am KMBest and I like playing good cards. And this was the card I ended up with, and frankly, I think she's outperformed what I would have expected Merlin to be, because this is a very bad Merlin deck. All of our cards have abilities that need to be on the board for them to matter, and so we just never want to evolve anything. We never want to flush anything away. It super sucks. Kate Bishop ends up just doing better stuff for this deck in that context. Mr. Owen Wilson himself, Mobius, is not just a card that stops you from getting outrageously high rolled by whatever thing is trying to outrageously high roll you, right? Like, is it Mr. Negative? Is it Sarah? What is it? Is it a death out of a destroy deck? Oh no, guess it doesn't happen. This deck has a limited amount of points, and in order to survive with a limited amount of points, your opponents definitely cannot be cheating. You want to win a lot of fair games. You don't win any game where your opponent's game plan is actually happening. So you got to make sure it doesn't. I mean, she's just just baseline 3-5 with upside of usually somewhere in the range of 7 points. That's like a 312. You love 312s. This is a deck with limited point output. She makes your point output get to a competitive level. It's really that simple. I mean, I don't really know what to say about this guy other than this is the deck in which it was a buff, right? Like, this is the deck in which Juggernaut going to 5 points matters less or matters more than Juggernaut going to 4 energy. He's great. You love this guy because there's just so much this guy can do. Like, I talked about the Juggernaut Ghost Spider thing, right? That's super gross, but just generally having this card that I feel like it is just impossible to play around what the range here is. With Ghost Spider, Juggernaut, Thing First Steps, I don't know what I would do. I'd probably just guess. Like, there's so much that is so hard to deal with in those spots where you're just like, I really hope I got that right. And it brings the sort of control over the distribution of your power and what lanes you plan on winning. That's a really powerful thing to bring to bear at the top end of Infinite. I've been really impressed with Stardust. Like, I don't think most decks can afford to play Stardust, but this deck can afford to play Stardust, and that's good because it does get super rolled when people do Hela stuff or Ghost Rider stuff, and I brought this up earlier in the context of Mobius and Stardust together, but I do think it's an important point to drive home. When you think of the locations that make games stupid and really drive point levels high, there are very few that Mobius and Stardust don't interact with. There are some, but when you think about like, okay, God, you remember that crazy game I had? There's usually a couple of locations that you think about there, and a lot of them get interacted by Mobius, and the ones that don't get interacted by Stardust, and that matters to a deck that is sort of fundamentally limited in point output. So here's the thing. I honestly can't say enough good things about Ben Grimm here. He's just been a catch-all, awesome, amazing tech card. Like a 5/10 Lady Deathstrike. Just a great card that does so much. It is excellent at, again, there's like a bunch of specific locations, right? This card is great on the Nexus. You know, your other tech cards don't really impact the Nexus. This guy is amazing on the Nexus. This card is great on Mojo World. Your other tech cards, not great on Mojo World. And so you just have all of these things where it's like, between this card and Juggernaut, when there's one high leverage lane, you're really good at winning it, right? And then you also have the ability to turn a lot of the like game-defining locations in your favor with your other tech cards. And I think largely that's the thing that makes this deck work. There is just a lot of ability to move your points where they matter the most. I'm going to nerd out here for a second, but in the Battle of Yarmouk in like the year 630 or so, the way that Khalid ibn al-Walid used his sort of mounted cavalry was to, being outnumbered, move his forces such that he was never outnumbered at a specific point, right? And that is kind of genuinely the theory of this deck. I've been reading a lot of history recently. I'm sorry. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. As always, I've been KMBest. You've been phenomenal. I want to talk to you, though, because yesterday I posted a video that was like, Jim Hammond's situation is crazy. And I realized the crazy titles are played out. I get it. So people yelled at me in the comments, and I changed the title to Jim Hammond's situation is banal, because I think that's a good joke. It's funny. And yeah, I get it. You know, if every situation is crazy, no one is. Sure. But here's what I want to really talk to you about. Because I'm pretty sure that listening to you guys yell at me cost me some money, because the video was doing pretty well. It was like a 5 out of 10 on the little thing YouTube shows me. It was doing pretty well. I changed it from crazy to banal, and it went down. It started just like tailing off. And maybe that would have happened anyway, because people don't want to hear about Jim Hammond. I can't be sure. But what I can tell you is, from my very basic A/B test, it certainly seems like the clickbait works. So expect to see more crazy situations. Or maybe I'll just continue riffing on the concept where I go like, X situation is a situation. Like, I appreciate riffing on the concept, but also, I'm never listening to the comments again, dog. Think about how much you hurt me. I will see you in the next one. Have a wonderful day. Let's get into some gameplay. It's a Kanger. Getting kanged on, bro. I actually want a Sentinel because I don't have a 2-drop. It's actually crazy how often that happens in this deck, where you're just like, I don't have a 2-drop. Fuck it, I don't know. Now I don't want the Sentinel. Actually, Binks, I don't know why you're exclamation pointing that. That's like a pretty normal thing. A guy is around occasionally. Fucking got me, dude. What the fuck are you? Nightmare! Jesus Christ. I mean, get the fuck out of here. If I get Macari'd, by the way, I'm gonna shit myself.
It's clobbering time.
Did not get Macari'd. Change my title to more like Jimothy Scammon. More like Jim Scammond. Oh, you're like GGing me? Whatever, you're RSM Kanging. I have no respect for you whatsoever. I will never respect you, Mr. RSM Kang. I'm kidding, I respect you. It's sort of ridiculous to pretend. Please don't win. Thank you. Okay, good. I have that too. It's okay. Why didn't they blow up my mobile? What?
Opponent snapped.
Huh. Check this out.
It's clobbering time.
Dude, if they actually win the middle on the if they actually fuck me with this Bruce banner, I'm gonna cry. I know there's a scream. I'm saying I think that I'll just have more points on the right lane because they won't expect this. They'll be like splitting points between the two, and I'll be able to win. See? It's exactly the thing I said would happen. Also, they didn't get Bruce Banner because he's a... Getting turn 1 snapped by an RSM gamer. Sinead, it's fucked up that you get to know what's in my deck, but I don't get to know what's in yours. That's illegal, I fear.
Snap.
All right. Double Quinjet. I mean, it's a good thing we have this Mobius fucking regardless. But they're probably going to blow up the Elysium, right? I mean, I would. Hopefully I get my 4 back here. Far from a guarantee, though. Here comes the blown up Elysium. Oh? Interesting. They draw Thanos. They Soulstone Thanos. Electra feels really good right now. I believe you, dude. They're dead. We got our 4th fan. I love me some Electra. This Mobius goes ape shit. If I draw IW, I snap, and he probably leaves. Frankly, if he stays on some IW snap shit, I don't know what he's doing. But it is technically possible. They got my jug. Ouch, bro. Ooh! Love that. Fair enough. If he has no Mockingbird and we do, is that snappable? I wish, dude. I don't know what the fuck the line here is, but I don't know if anything is snappable in the world that we're living in. Is that fucking Silver Surfer? That's crazy, dude. Holy shit. I legit just have no idea. Hear me out, he never plays around acid left. The problem is I strongly suspect he plays around acid left. Yes. I'm with you. I kind of just want to snap just to see what the bobs do. You know what I mean?
Snap.
Bobs be doing things. I don't know. Take some game actions. Dude, I got fucked so bad here. Holy shit. Okay, the good news... Wait, she costs 0 now. She could get discarded here. It's over for me. Oh, good. It's Luna. Okay. He hits for 7 here. No, he hits for nothing. He hits for I fucking lose, I guess. I don't know. I'm imagining I'm... Ooh, wait. What if I don't want to do that? Am I dead or am I winning? Because, I mean, like, my alternate is just... yeah? I don't know what the fuck's in his deck, though. I don't know what it is. Okay, it's a retreat. Good. That game was well played. I could tell because they won. That's how I could tell it was well played. Flasher kind of dope. Flasher kind of dope. Fascinating. There are draws where what I'm supposed to do is just dump shit into QT here. Weird. Okay. I don't know. Kind of interesting. I think it might be this just to get stuff to fill up for Genosha. Ooh, my order is bad here. It's irrelevant, but it is bad. Obius is a good rip. Fascinating. Look at this.
It's clobbering time.
Didn't even matter, but it did. I would get. Easiest not havoc of my life, by the way. Works. Still not havoc. Nice. Never havoc. Nice. Okay, so this does work, yes? Nice. Holy shit. I assume I just win, right? Is this not just an instant win? Thing wins mid? That's what I'm thinking. I mean, the only real question is if I am doing anything other than this, right? Gambit's a card? That is so true. I think in light of Gambit being a card specifically, I play like this. Just to get as many cards down as I possibly can. Okay, so I mean, am I afraid of Gambit or not? Fuck it, dude. I'll get gambited. Don't do it, dude. Hit anywhere but that. I'll take it.
It's clobbering time.
Anywhere but middle, baby. Just win, baby. Just win, baby.